Hello one and all, this is Soulful Lordy, James Bullock, once again with another video game first impressions. This time around, Deathloop for the PlayStation 5 and PC. Deathloop is a first-person shooter, semi-open world, PvE, PvP, online experience. And I say this almost confusingly because it's also a gigantic puzzle. It's also a social experiment. In a lot of ways, what makes Deathloop so enjoyable is the fact that it really doesn't fit into one genuine genre. It is a game that you take control of Colt Vaughn, who is in the middle of this apparent Groundhog Day meets Far Cry meets Metrovania style action, where he, after spending the morning, noon, afternoon, and evening, results back into starting that same day all over again. Opposing him is not only his fellow cover star Juliana Blake, who is just absolutely wonderful in her presentation, her voice acting, everything about her just oozes charisma and this genuine appeal, narcissistic streak in her, but also 7 other different bosses known as visionaries. Now, Colt finds out that the only way to stop this loop, this Groundhog Day scenario, is by killing all of the visionaries in one day. And this is where the big puzzle comes into play, because you have to figure out how you're going to utilize their schedule against them. And as predicted, these bosses also are different in nature and presentation and the way they attack Colt, including Igor, who is a specialist at sniping, as well as a very egotistical scientist that loves to turn invisible. Now, these abilities are known as slabs, and when you kill a boss, when you defeat a boss, you can actually attain their slab. As I just noted, Igor has the ability to turn invisible for a short period of time. So when you defeat Igor, you can pick up that slab. Now, you don't have to just defeat them once, of course. You will have to defeat them potentially multiple times. And when you defeat them the next time, they actually drop an upgrade that can be upgraded to that slab. So you can have, say, invisibility that doesn't disappear when you get damaged like you would normally when you first attach the slab to Colt. Now, when it comes to weaponry, Colt can not only use his abilities, his slabs, but also guns. There are a plethora of guns, but all pretty much divided in the same subcategories in terms of shotguns, pistols, assault rifles. Now, these weapons come in rarity levels, so of course the greater the rarity level, the more impactful the weapon will be in the heat of battle. This also ties into the trinket system. These are add-ons that can be given to not only Colt but also his weapons. For weapons, you can have a trinket that allows for better stopping power with a gun, or bullets that will penetrate not only the first target but the target that's standing behind that target. When it comes to character trinkets, these things can boost his ability to regenerate his energy so he can utilize his slabs quicker, or even being able to sneak and move faster. Cole also has a machete that is perfect for one-hit kills if you can get that machete to hit an enemy at the right spot, or if you sneak up on him, you can do a quick decapitation. Another big instrument in Cole's arsenal is his hacking tool. Cole can hack things like turrets that will turn against the enemy and shoot them down. It is one of the best things about the game to me, especially when you can hack a turret, actually deactivate it, pick it up, and then take it with you to another area of the map and unleash the turret on other enemies who aren't ready for its barrage. One of the most interesting aspects, and yet one of the most distressing depending on how lucky you are, is the fact that a majority of these trinkets, the weapons, all of these things outside of the slabs themselves are randomized. So for example, during my first loop, I got a nail gun, which pretty much acted like a silenced pistol. It was a great tool in sneaking around and landing headshots. On my second loop, I did not encounter a nail gun at all. But then on my third loop, I found one pretty early in my third loop. Now, of course, with this being a Groundhog Day scenario, with this having this big time loop, the question is, how do you keep your arsenal? Instead of having, say, a weapons locker that doesn't reset, the game has this infusion system where you can utilize this currency that you find from items that are glittering around the various maps. And with those points, you're able to infuse your items, be it your trinkets, your slabs, or your weapons. And then when you do a loop, you won't lose those items. When it comes to the gameplay, there are some problems. To me, the AI isn't the most challenging, it isn't the most intelligent. Beyond the visionaries themselves, most of the AI poses no challenge, and I've heard that as you progress through the story, of course, the AI gets harder and more intelligent. And I'm hoping that's the case, because right now when it comes to taking on the majority of the regular enemies, it's pretty easy to wipe them out. Unless you get into a firefight or are really stupid, it's pretty much impossible to die. And that is complemented by the fact that one of the slabs that are connected immediately to Colt that you can't get rid of allows him to respawn twice before he dies. This 3 lives and infusions and slabs and all of that really ties also into the multiplayer aspect of the game. In this game, you can play not only as Colt, but also Juliana. Juliana is associated with the Protect the Loop mode, which is the PvP mode where you can play as Juliana and invade someone else's game and attempt to take them out. Juliana's trinkets and slabs and upgrades come from simply playing through the mode. Now, like the weapons and the trinkets and everything else when it comes to Colt's game, these are randomized. So depending on how you do and how well you're doing, depending on your leveling up and your luck, you may get some great trinkets, some great items, some great weapons, or you may not. There are some issues. As I noted, Colt has the ability to respawn twice. Juliana only has 1 life. So if something goes wrong and Juliana does die, that means that it's game over for you, which means you will have to find another game to play instead of staying in the world that is currently occupied by the playing Colt. This wouldn't be so bad if there wasn't an inconsistency when it comes to the load times, the queue times of trying to find a game, and also the connectivity quality. Since this is a peer-for-peer kind of connectivity, is not dedicated to servers, you are at times at the mercy of someone else's connection quality, which means that there will be many a times when you're playing through a game, everything's going fine, and then it will start stuttering, it will start jittering. I had one where I was doing incredibly well, had killed Cole one time, was chasing him down for a second kill, and the game started rubber banding, which is a big problem in the multiplayer mode, and it kept pulling my Juliana back to a specific point on the map until I fell into the line of sight of a turret that the Colt player had hacked, which means I got shot to death for simply trying to play the game. It was nothing I could do about it, and I lost the round because of something that was completely out of my control. As a mode, as a online mode, as a PvP mode, it is fun when everything clicks. When you're having a good round, you're chasing someone, they may shoot you down, they may cut you up, you may cut them up, you may shoot them down. A nice little back and forth game. It is very fun, and it's something that really is made for playing with friends. But when you're trying to take on randoms, when you're a slave to the connectivity quality and the long queue times to try to get into a game, it can be very frustrating and downright disappointing. Going back to the single player aspect of the game. Now when it comes to Juliana, you can turn off the online functionality of her invading. She will invade as an AI controlled enemy, and at times can be a little bit difficult, but it makes for the option, which I do appreciate. If you don't want to have someone invading your game and ruining it by closing down the tunnels, which happens when Juliana does invade, then you can cut that off and then just take out the AI when need be. Going back to the single player aspect, there are some issues when it comes to this game, and one of the biggest things besides the aforementioned AI issues is the fact that this game is a gigantic puzzle. A lot of what's needed to find and discover and complete these puzzles comes via messages that are found scattered throughout whatever environment you're in. While this is all well and good, when you're given a plethora of information at various points and you're moving on to something else, and then you come back to a spot where you need that information and the game really doesn't tell you how you got that information if you already did, it becomes worrisome because you're going around trying to find out what you have to do and come to find out it's already in your inventory. For example, one moment saw me playing the game, I got this piece of information that would help me in another mission. I didn't play that next mission until the next day, and I had no idea until I looked up on the internet that the solution was already in my inventory, which was a code that was available and a note that I found during a previous mission. It doesn't indicate anywhere during that mission that that is the note that is specifically made for the codes that's needed for this mission. And in situations like that, that can be frustrating and will definitely force people to look on the internet to find answers for things that should be a little bit more clear for people to understand. Also, it can be noted that the game only has really 4 maps, but each of these maps has 4 different settings in correlation to whatever time of day it is. So you could be playing a map in the early morning and it will be completely different than a map at night, because at night there'll be more enemies, there'll be certain sections that are closed off, and there are side quests and puzzles that can't be completed during that time that could have been completed at, say, noon or afternoon. Technically, the game looks good. The voice acting is fantastic, especially between Colt and Juliana, which is pretty much the majority of the voice acting. The art presentation is very unique and fun, especially when you see the cutscenes, but there will be some graphical glitches here and there, like some flickering environments and general odd moments like the NPC enemies just walking into a wall when they're not supposed to. Overall, Deathloop is one of those games I really didn't know what to expect due to the promotion, and I didn't know if I would enjoy it. But thus far, this has been one of the standout games of 2021, especially when it comes to PlayStation 5 games. I am thoroughly enjoying it. It has so many little things that makes me want to just play more and more of it. I wish I had more time in the day to play it, but I will say there are some shortcomings, especially when it comes to the presentation of the PvP aspect. The AI being not the brightest, especially in the first few hours, causing a general lack of challenge, and of course the revelations of puzzles and information that could have been handled a lot better. But beyond that, I will say that this is a fantastic game that I believe will be a Game of the Year contender. So there you have it. This has been so lordy. James Bullock, once again with another video game first impressions. Deathloop for the PlayStation 5 and PC. Now, if you don't mind, it's a new day in the world that we know as Black Reef. It's set on some enemies that definitely deserve to be taken out. And if they try to overwhelm me with force, they will have no choice but to say, "Oh lordy."